Hi and welcome back to a new video. Whenever you see something related to water cooling or water cooling testing in my videos, you rarely or typically never see anything regarding pump or radiator, simply because this always sits underneath my desk. I think I showed this once in a video where I assembled this. It's a MoRa 360 pump combination. So we have a radiator on the side, the big one, the MoRa IV 360, that has 9 120mm fans attached to it. I have a fan control on top and a pump attached to it. And that's usually sitting underneath my desk. So I can easily always, with a quick connect, attach it to my test system and have always very good cooling. Now the MoRa IV 360 is over 10 years old. Not mine, but the product in general. And now this year, Watercool released the MoRa IV 600. And the naming could be a little bit difficult to understand, but for the MoRa IV 360, you were able to mount 3 120mm fans in a row. That's why it's called 360. Now with the MoRa IV 600, you're able to mount 3 times 200mm fans in a row, or I think up to 4 times 4 140mm fans. So it's going to be a huge amount of fans, a huge amount of cooling area, and I simply want to upgrade this to the latest generation with a lot of cooling potential. I want to keep the same principle as here, so I have a pump, reservoir and also radiator combination. I'm not quite sure yet how I will solve it when it comes to the fan control. That is something I still have to figure out, but I also never changed it from the day that I assembled it. So all the fans have always been spinning at a very low RPM, so you can't hear it, so it doesn't influence any kind of testing. Same goes for the pump, always low RPM, but strong enough for proper testing results. Then I want to again attach those quick connect fittings and also the sensor from Aquacomputer. This one allows to check the flow rate and also the temperature. And for additional safety, for measurement data, I always have a second temperature sensor always attached behind it. So I have 2 values that I can check. A difference will be that the MoRa 600 will not go under my table again, but it will be mounted on this wall. And that's also why I kept this space empty. So maybe you saw it in the background somewhere sometime and wondered why there is no background decoration. And that's because I planned to attach the MoRa 600 there for already quite a long time. I originally just wanted to test and use the MoRa 600, which is this monster right here. But then Watercool, they just provided all the different sizes to me. And I think before we go ahead and assemble the MoRa 600, we might just want to look at the different sizes and what the MoRa IV in general offers. So there's not only the 600 size, but also 2 smaller sizes. That's this one, which is still quite huge. And then this one in the background. I'm not sure which of these would be most commonly used. I guess the 600, because it provides just the most absurd amount of cooling, but yeah, we'll just take these on the table first and show what they offer also in terms of what changed in regard to the MoRa III. This one is the smallest size out of the 3 different types of MoRa IV. This is the MoRa IV 200. This is already a big radiator. Can fit 2 times 200mm Noctua fans. Well, technically 4, you could do push-pull if you want to. By the way, I also checked out how these things are made at the Watercool factory in Germany together with Gamers Nexus Steve about a week ago. I'm not sure when his video will go live. It might still take a little bit of time, but it was really interesting to see. And yeah, already this one, the small one, contains, according to the Watercool website, 21 meters of piping internally, which is impressive, and this weighs about 6 kilograms. The 3 different types, like MoRa IV 200, 400 and 600, they basically just differ in size, but the feature set is the same for the small one and also the big one. So we just go through that with the small one, and then yeah, we will later go through the bigger one, but not mount everything. But just feature-wise, if you used a MoRa before or just seen it maybe online, then you will definitely directly see how much more evolved this thing is, how much more development work went into this product. So one interesting part is already this small and nice looking badge that displays the Watercool logo. This can be replaced with an LCD, and I'm not sure if this is available by the time that the video is going to be released. Watercool showed it to me already, and you can place it in there, take this out, place the LCD inside, and then, or it could also be an OLED, but it will basically allow you to measure different stuff like water temperature or like pump speed and flow speed and everything, have it displayed directly on the MoRa itself. There's also the logo that can be RGB illuminated if you want to. And then the back side, there is also an additional stainless steel plate that can be removed, and then you can add like a power module onto the MoRa itself. And here you have the connectors for in and out of the radiator itself. And then also what changed completely is how you mount the fans. It's so much more convenient. So you can clip this out, you can just very conveniently mount the fans and then just clip it back in. And the previous version, you had those metal bars that you had to first mount in the right places and then mount the fan on top, which was, yeah, not nice. The MoRa IV has a lot of accessories that can be purchased in addition, and I think those make it so brilliant. For example, if you remember my old MoRa III, I had to find like a custom solution to attach my fan control on top, and then the wiring and everything was not perfect. It was just it's just working solution. But here we have this stainless steel plate. You remove the top screw, then you can pull it out, and you can replace this with either the passive control or the active control. The main difference is that the active control is not available yet, but this will be connected with the display that goes on top in the radiator and then allows active control of pump and fans. Whereas with the passive control, you cannot do it, and it's simply a nicer version for cable management and attaching your fans and pump to the system. The bottom cable here on both active and passive control will go to your PC. That would be this cable right here. Kind of reminds me of 12 volt high power. And this can carry up to 120 watts. And you would connect the cable between the active or passive control with the MoRa link. You can see the connection on the bottom. And this would sit inside your PC system. And you would attach this to a dual 6-pin PCIe power supply, and then you can connect it to the motherboard, connect fan and pump. So those will be two different signals, and that will then later control the fans and the pump that can sit on the back, and also additional RGB signal. If there's anything you want to customize or check what the cables are doing, it is very detailed in the manual. For example, the main cable, you can see it carries 2 times 12 volt ground, then ARGB and pump and fan control on the right. That is pretty cool and very detailed. That is something you should definitely check out in the manual. The point of the entire MoRa concept, which means Monster Radiator, is obviously that you move away all the noise sources from your system just somewhere else. You could move it even in a different room if you want to, and you're no longer just limited by the radiator mounting surface or mounting space available in your case. That means you could have this or even the MoRa 600 cool like an ITX system. And especially for those kind of solutions, it was always very convenient to not only have the radiator and fans on here, but also the pump. And especially adding the pump made it a little bit painful in the past. And if you also wanted to add maybe RGB fans, it was even more painful, because then you had to add maybe 9 fans where you need wiring, then maybe the RGB signal, pump speed signal, temperature sensor, flow sensor, and all this. You would need like, I don't know, 10 different wires to your system. Just wire all that yourself. That was never really convenient. That's why I'm so happy that they took all this feedback into account and found a solution that is pretty nice. And that's why we have the active control. So if you switch the stainless steel plate with active control, then you can also attach temperature sensors, flow sensors, and have all of this sitting in the radiator itself. Have the LCD or OLED, the screen connected on top here. I will not change this for now because you would have to take off the entire top plate to take out this piece of POM and then add the screen, but this would allow full control on the radiator itself, and then you would still only have this single cable going to your system. So I think that is pretty cool and convenient. And if you want to add a pump to the radiator directly, then it would sit somewhere here. And with this cable, you could directly connect, theoretically directly connect 2 pumps, but also up to 3, but only on the MoRa 600. At first, I didn't fully understand where to connect the fans on the passive control, but they go on here. But the connector and the adapter is sitting in the MoRa already. All we have to do is take the passive control, attach the connector for the fans, and this is the RGB signal. Attach this as well, and then you can fit this inside. With the MoRa 200, where we can attach 4, or in our case 2 of these fans, we take out the frame where we can later attach the fans, and then on here in the bottom you can already find prepared the connectors for the fans. And that's the result with the two 200mm fans mounted, but there's also a nice fan shroud or fan bracket that can go on top to make it look even better. For that we have to remove these screws around the corners, and instead of the screws we have to mount these, whatever they're called. That's how the fan grill looks like, also available in the different sizes and different colors. Just goes on like this. And it also doesn't matter if you have that part in front or the back, just visual preference. Now you could choose if you want to mount this on the wall or put it under the desk as I did it. And for this, there are those feet or stands available. Overall, like the production quality Watercool has is absolutely insane. I think this must be 12 or 14mm of POM. This is CNC milled, and these go on the bottom, you screw them on, and then should have a very good stand. But we also have the MoRa 400, and this time in white. I attached the feet to the MoRa 400, which can hold up to 4 times 200mm fans. Those feet also have a small notch in the bottom. So on the bottom of the MoRa itself, you could attach an ARGB strip that is also available from Watercool directly. That again can be connected to the passive control in the back, which then goes to the motherboard. So you can have RGB, like passive RGB on the bottom. You can also have RGB for the MoRa logo in the front. For that, you also have to get an additional part, which I think goes in from the top. So you have to take off the top part and slide it in from the top, again connected to the ARGB control. And then you will have the MoRa logo with ARGB and also ARGB on the bottom. Especially if you go for 4 times 200mm fans, this is extremely convenient. Again, you can just take this out, and if you flip it around, you will see that there is a small PCB in the center, which is basically just a fan hub. And then it's very easy to attach those 4 fans directly to the center, especially if you go for the 4 times 200mm fans. There is also a 3x3 140mm bracket available for this radiator, so you can mount 9 times 140mm fans. But if I saw it correctly online, then this other bracket for the 9 times 140mm fans doesn't have the PCB in the center, so I guess cable management will be a little bit more of a hassle. Again, there is a shroud available for this one, so if you want to go for that, then that's also again an optional part. Really, Watercool. What the hell? 16 kilograms of weight. According to the Watercool website, it's 81 meters of piping inside this radiator and about 7 square meters of just aluminium for cooling surface. That's insane. And I'm not sure if you're aware of how big the Watercool MoRa community is, and that there's even a MoRa church. Again, there is this crazy but nice to use bracket for 9 times 200mm fans, but I will use 140mm fans, 16 in total, because honestly I also want this to look kind of cool in the background with a little bit of RGB. So yeah, it will be more painful. Yeah, 16 140mm fans. I went for daisy chainable fans, which is something I would probably recommend if you would ever consider to go for something like this. I went for Corsair link fans, and that should make it at least a little bit more convenient. Now with those LX140 16 pieces, I just realized that this project is maybe a bit expensive. The MoRa 600 itself is already 550 without any of the accessories. then this is 720 euros in fans. Then I plan to use 3 of those D5 pumps. And also there is this D5 reservoir combination thing that we should be able to attach to the site. Yeah, I think the overall cost for this entire radiator project is far above 1,500 euros. No comment. I'm planning to use 8 fans on one side and 8 fans on the other side. If I remember correctly, initially you could hook up to 7 IQ devices on one channel, and then I think Corsair increased this to 12 channels, well, 12 devices per channel, which then should give us a total of 24 devices for one controller. And then it should work out that we will just do 2 U-shaped connections, then just like one IQ connection on the bottom, U-shape, and then another U-shape. And that hopefully works out. I think this will be 30 minutes of just mounting fans. Well, that didn't take long to not work. I just thought, let's connect the second fan. And then I realized the mounting hole is here. And if I mount the fan to the bracket, then there's a gap of like a centimeter in between. To my defense, when I ordered the fans, then I didn't have the bracket yet because it was delayed from Watercool. But it's not Watercool's fault, it's my own fault for just doing things without checking properly. Now I thought of using the cable which is included, but it would have to go on like this and then like this, which again is not enough space. So I'm thinking to just rotate every fan by 90 degrees and then like that. I think I found an easy solution, and that's just flipping every second fan by 180 degrees. So the first one is like this, and the second one like this, and then I just make the cable connection like that. That should work. I just have to squeeze the cable in between. It won't look perfectly nice. You can see it here, but it should work. And I think once the fan grill is on top, you probably won't even see it. Worst case, I can still probably 3D print something, but at least it should work to connect it. And I don't have to, because I just thought of, I might have to solder 16 fans together. We're making good progress. Already 8 of them are in place, and it doesn't even look that bad with the cable in between. And I think at least when the fans will be switched on, I think you will not be able to see it anymore just because of the light coming from the fan, and also once the fan grill will sit on top. That looks pretty insane, and I'm happy that it worked out to connect all of them together with cables. Now we have to keep working on the radiator. We have to do the same thing that we did with the MoRa 200, replace the stainless steel plate with the passive control and all these things to eventually mount it on the wall. However, before I proceed, I just want to make sure that this is also working with so many devices attached to a single controller. So we have 8 fans on the left channel and again 8 fans on the right channel. Well, all the fans are spinning, but I only have RGB on 3/4 of them. Now the question is why? It's a substantial amount of air that's coming through 16 fans, and it's just loud because they push directly onto the table right now. And I just read on the Corsair website that there was a firmware update that allowed going from max 7 to max 12 devices per channel. And the reason for that is that they removed a soft limit, or you can remove the soft limit. The soft limit is mainly for overcurrent protection. And if you want to go past 7 devices, which is a max of 238 LEDs, then what it does, it's simply dimming the LEDs. So the existing LEDs will just become a little bit less bright to stay within the current limit, and that's how you can run up to 12 devices per channel. So I think it's just a firmware that's maybe not updated on that device. So I think once we hook it up to software and update it, should probably be fine. But now we will continue on the big boy, and first I will have to remove the stainless steel plate on the bottom, replace it with a passive control similar to what we did on the MoRa 200 already. Earlier I showed you this D5 from Watercool. The thing is, I have 3 of them which I want to mount directly to the radiator. There is this thing which is called MoRa IV tank. This is a pump reservoir combination, and if you go for MoRa 200 or 400, you can typically only run one D5. And they thought, okay, for MoRa 600, it is very obvious that you can make use of the space and run 2 of the D5s. But when I talked to Watercool and when I first held this on my radiator, then I thought, isn't there space for 3? So we will go with 3 D5s. Don't ask me, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense. I just want to do it because it's possible. There's also the possibility to add a level sensor into the tank solution, which I'm not going to do because I don't really need it. I'm not going to use it. But for, well, theoretically 2 pumps is nice because you get some kind of redundancy. But for, yeah, 3 pumps, don't even ask me. When you look at the MoRa tank, you will notice that these 2 parts are a little bit different. Originally, that bottom part was sitting here and the middle one here is an extension module. And when I put this on the first time like this, then I figured that there's at least space for a 3rd pump. Probably also for a 4th, but I'm not sure if you would run out of, I don't know, current capacity from the passive module on the bottom, or if this would also collide with that one. So I know for sure that 3 pumps will work. I confirmed this with Watercool. And what is pretty nice is that there is this piece of brass included that you can screw in here. And then the tank will just be pressed on, and with the O-rings, it will seal off in here. So there's not much to do in terms of just bolting this to the radiator, but we will have to take off the top piece, the top cover of the MoRa to be able to access the screw holes from the back to attach it. That's the tank without the expansion modules, and behind you can see how this is mounted, just with these rubber pieces that slot in right here. You bolt it on and then, yeah, it's also decoupled. And this O-ring and the groove behind it, that is the principle behind those extension pieces. So everyone looks exactly like this and just they bolt onto each other. They really paid attention to detail. There's even a small hole for the RGB cable. You can just route this through the case and then just directly connect it to the passive control on the bottom. You have to be really careful while adding these screws, because if you lose them, you will have to basically disassemble the entire radiator because it will just fall down, yeah, and it's gone. Now we're adding the 2 pump expansion modules from the bottom. In each of the expansion modules, we have to add one of those threaded pins from the bottom. It also has an internal thread where the next expansion module threads in again. Now all of the 3 pump holders are in place. Next step, I already took out these metal shrouds that sit on top, and then push in the pumps, put these on top that secure the pump, and then it should be good. This just looks so much better, so much more convenient compared to anything that I had in the past. Just put in the pumps, add the cables on the bottom. Now I just need the big wire to the PC and then connect the radiator on the bottom connection right here. The other one goes into the bottom pump, fill the reservoir from the top, and that's it. Now I want to mount it on the wall where this piece of metal is for. That will be mounted on the wall, and then you can hang the MoRa on it. And for that you have to attach these pieces of plastic that go on the MoRa. Then on the screw you will have the piece of metal sitting. And to find the drilling distances, you can just check the manual. I think it was 585 millimeters times 646 millimeters. And then that should work out. Should look something like this. And then should just be fixed on the wall. It's unbelievable how heavy this thing is, also with the pumps and the reservoir. But it should just go on the wall like this, I think. Luckily, the screw just left an imprint on the wall, and I will use that as a marker. With this laser thing, this is quite simple. Oh, that's what you get when the tool is made for a German wall and it's like an American paper wall. I'm quickly updating the firmware on the IQ controller, and I hope this will solve the light issue. It's not as easy as I expected. I'm not sure why, but only 12 fans show up. I thought it would adapt to the new limitation, even though everything is updated to the latest firmware. I still can only see 12 fans in IQ. I probably have to read a little bit more, find out why this is the case. But for now, I will just hook up a second controller. It's not as easy as they say, because I attached 2 controllers, and now you can see not a single fan is spinning. Right now, only one controller, well, one of the hubs is detected. The second one was previously detected. I flashed the firmware and it's gone and nothing is working. Great. I'm making progress, but don't ask me how, because I just restarted like 10 times and now it's suddenly working, even though I've been doing the same thing 10 times. Almost done. Only the right and the left portion are not fully synchronized yet, but I noticed there's like a weird high frequency noise, probably coming from the RGB control. It's gone after switching to static colors. I will just leave it this way. I'm not sure if it's because it's 16 fans or because it's dimmed, but now it's much better. Yeah. Well, I thought it would store all the information on the hub and that I could just leave it on here without having it attached to a PC, but seems like I will need to find a solution to run IQ maybe on a mini PC or something like that. We will end the video at this point though. I think it's already too long and I reached a point where I realized that I still have a long way to go because we didn't even start filling the radiator and pump yet. I'm still missing stuff like I need longer tubing, I need an extension cord for the MoRa stuff, and then I probably should get like a mini PC or something because I think otherwise the entire IQ thing will not be as easy as I thought. Who would have thought? Yeah. But apart from that, I mean, the MoRa stuff is just so nice. Watercool products, the quality, everything. I just love what they're doing. And you should definitely check that out if you're also a fan of external radiators. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Bye-bye.